Today, we're going to dive into a landmark Indian Supreme Court case. It's a story that starts with one woman's fight just to survive and ends up securing the rights for countless others. This is the Iqbal Bano case, and trust me, it really did change the game.
You know, this whole thing doesn't start in some stuffy courtroom. It starts with a life. Iqbal Bano got married way back in 1959. For more than 30 years, she built a life, a family. But then, in 1991, after the absolutely tragic death of their son, her husband just abandoned her, left her with nothing.
So Iqbal Bano's lonely, desperate fight for just basic support, it would eventually climb all the way to the highest court in India. And in doing so, it forced the court to answer a really fundamental question. What happens when community rules and an individual's basic right to dignity collide?
Okay, so let's actually trace her path, because it was a long, long road through the court system, and she really had to start right at the bottom.
A year after being left with absolutely nothing, she finally turned to the courts. And look, she wasn't asking for a fortune here, just 500 rupees a month, enough to survive. She filed her case under a general law, a secular law, that was designed for exactly this kind of situation.
Her journey through the legal system was, well, a total roller coaster. At first, the magistrate granted her the maintenance, a win, but then her husband appealed, and the next court up, the revisional court, overturned it, a huge setback. So she fought on, took it to the high court, only to lose again. All that initial hope was just crushed, leaving the Supreme Court as her absolute last chance.
So you might be wondering, why was this so hard? Why were the courts giving opposite answers? Well, the problem was this: a total clash between two different laws, and it created a kind of legal maze for women like Iqbal Bano.
So here's the conflict. On one side, you've got Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code. Think of it as a universal safety net. It's for everyone, any wife, child, or parent, regardless of religion, who needs support. But on the other side, there's the Muslim Women Act of 1986, a very specific law passed after the famous Shabana case. And the courts were totally confused. Could a Muslim woman use the general, secular law, or did she have to use the one specific to her community?
And just to make this legal maze even more confusing, her husband threw in a new defense. It wasn't just about which law to use anymore. He called their entire marital status into question.
Right there, in his written statement to the court, he made this incredible claim. He said he'd divorced Iqbal Bano decades ago, just by saying the word talaq 3 times. His whole argument was, hey, she's a divorced woman, so that general law for wives doesn't even apply to her.
And this, right here, became the heart of the matter. Can someone just claim in a court document that a divorce happened 30 years ago with zero other evidence and have that be legally binding? Is a claim without any proof the same as a valid divorce?
So after years and years of this painful legal fight, Iqbal Bano's case finally made it to the Supreme Court. And on June 5, 2007, the court handed down a decision that just cut through all the noise and confusion with some serious clarity.
The ruling really boiled down to 4 key points. First, just saying you pronounced talaq isn't a divorce. You actually have to prove it. Second, and this is huge, Section 125 is for everyone. The 1986 Act is an extra protection. It doesn't take away other rights. Third, justice is more important than legal labels. The court said basically, we don't care what form you filled out, our job is to get you help. And finally, a husband's duty to provide support doesn't end after the short IDOT waiting period. It continues until the woman can support herself or remarries.
And this is really why her case is so important. This wasn't just a win for her, it became this crucial link in a long chain of legal progress, clearing up the law for generations of women.
See, her case didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It built on the foundation of other massive cases like Shabana and Danial Latifi. And the Iqbal Bano decision then became the solid ground for later judgments that continue to strengthen these rights even today. So when you boil it all down, what's the real legacy here? It brought clarity, saying loud and clear that secular law is for everyone. It put social justice ahead of legal technicalities. It demanded proof, not just words, for something as life-changing as a divorce. And maybe most importantly, it proved that different legal systems can and should work together to protect people.
In the end, Iqbal Bano's decades-long fight for her own survival and dignity was won. But her lonely journey leaves all of us with a really deep and lasting question. How do we, as modern societies, balance the rights of one person with the rules of their community? It's a question that countries all over the world are still trying to answer every single day.